Welcome back. This is lesson 3, video 2. So we stopped off at Locke's ideas of purpose of government. So his idea is that people create government to escape the state of nature and protect their natural rights. So his idea of state of nature is it's chaotic, not good or bad, just chaotic, and we need a government to kind of escape that state of nature that we're in, so to kind of bring some structure to our chaos and to then protect people's natural rights. And his idea is that natural rights are people's rights to life, liberty, and property. If you're familiar with the Declaration of Independence, you will know that Thomas Jefferson put in there life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's not a direct quote, but it is heavily influenced by Locke's idea of life, liberty, and property as people's natural rights. These are rights that all people have, regardless of who they are, and that supersede the government. So the government should protect these rights for everybody. All right, so because of Locke's view of human nature and his views of government, he obviously has some views of representation, and these views of representation will differ from the views that Hobbes has on representation. So Locke believed that a representative democracy is the best, because this guarantees government will be held accountable for their actions. So again, you have to remember that Locke was around during the time when the king's powers were starting to be restricted and that people were starting to have more say or representation in their government. So Locke believes that a representative democracy is the best type of government because it holds the government accountable, and the people are the one who hold the government accountable because the people are who the government is representing. So frequent elections to protect us from bad leaders. So Locke is saying that if we have frequent elections, bad leaders can be removed. Okay, so this is the idea of voting for people to represent us. And this is different from Hobbes' idea on representation, because if you remember, Hobbes does not think that government should represent. He thinks it should control. Locke says, no, government should represent. So question, do you agree with Locke that having frequent election protects us from bad leaders and holds our politicians accountable for their actions? So again, do you agree with Locke that having frequent elections protects us from bad leaders and holds our politicians accountable for their actions? Take a minute, write this question down, answer it in your notebook with your other questions, and make sure it's answered, because this could be one of the things that we talk about during our fishbowl. Rousseau. So he wrote this idea of the social contract. Government should be fair. People should improve society. People should improve society, and believed that the community and society is more important than the individual. So Rousseau had this idea of the social government, that it's a social contract, that the government and the people have this contract. The people give up some of their rights in contract with the government, and the government in return should be fair and govern justly. He believed that community and society are more important than the individual. So being fair for the community and not necessarily being fair for the individual is one of his beliefs. You could look at it that way for his belief. So Rousseau, just like Locke and Hobbes, have this idea of this state of nature, the state that humans naturally exist. And his idea is that men in a state of nature are noble savages, which means that he believes that human nature is naturally pure and society is what corrupts human nature. So because of society and the people around us, our human nature is corrupted. However, in our natural existence, we are naturally pure. That is what are good. You could replace pure with good. So obviously, just as with Hobbes and Locke, Rousseau's ideas of the state of human nature impact his ideas of the purpose of government. And because of his ideas, he believed that government should bring people into harmony and unite them under the general will. So the will of the society over the will of the individual, bring people together, unite people. Government should maximize freedoms and not limit them. So the government the government's purpose shouldn't be to restrict people's freedoms, but it should be to maximize their freedoms and make sure that people have as many freedoms as they can. So again, just like with Hobbes and Locke, Rousseau's views on representations are influenced by his ideas of the state of human nature and his views of government. So Hobbes believed that the best type of representation would be expressed through a direct democracy where everybody can participate. If you remember back to our government unit, direct democracy is this idea where everybody participates in the everyday runnings of the government. Every citizen must be actively involved in government in order to figure out the general will of the people. So everyone must be involved so that their voices can be heard, so that way the will of the people as a whole can be heard and represented. Question. Individuals will obey the law only if they have taken part in creating it. Agree, disagree, and why? Again, write this in your notebook with your other questions, have it answered, and have it in your notebook accessible for the fishbowl debate, because this could be something that we talk about. So individuals will obey the law only if they have taken part in it, which basically is saying is that people will only obey laws if they've had a say in creating it, if they've been represented in creating the law. Okay. Our closing activity for this, and write this in your notes because this is going to be the guiding basis for our fishbowl discussion. Where do you fall on this spectrum? Who do you agree with most, least, and why? So the spectrum between the Hobbes's ideas to Rousseau's ideas. Do you agree with Hobbes's ideas of state of nature, government and representation? Do you agree with Hobbes, government, human nature, and representation, or Rousseau's ideas on government, representation, and state of nature? Or do you agree with some of each of them? Make sure you answer this because this is going to be our guiding question for our fishbowl activity. We are going to these 3 questions here. Where do you fall on the spectrum? Who do you agree with most? And who do you agree with least are going to be the main focus of our fishbowl activity. So make sure you have this answered and that you have your chart completed and filled out so that you can participate. If you do not have your chart filled out, you will not be able to participate and you will go to 0 on this activity. Please make sure that you are prepared for it because the fishbowl activity will be worth multiple grades. Your chart will be worth a grade, and then your participation in the actual fishbowl will be worth a grade. And if you are not prepared, you will not be allowed to participate. Please make sure that you have also completed the readings and the other 3 videos, lesson 1, lesson 2, and lesson 3, part 1, before the fishbowl. Check your Google Classroom for any updates, and if you have any questions, please let me know.